rounded shape to the exhibit. Usually, in a lot of cases, you'll see a circular, like going this way. But like with ours, we've got it's rounded along the back and along the bottom. So we've got spray bars on the sides making the water move this way and moving this way. And the reason for that is jellyfish in the ocean, they rely on the ocean's currents to keep them suspended in the water. You know, like the pulsing you see them do is not so much they're swimming as it is that they're collecting food that way. So if you were to take a jellyfish home and try to put it into an aquarium, it's going to just sit on the bottom, and it's eventually going to kind of take a balled up shape and not eat anymore. So biggest key for the most lifelike thing for them is to keep them suspended in the water.
So size doesn't really matter of the exhibit?
It depends on the type of species you're working with. Like with moon jellies, like the ones we have here, they can get up to 18 inches in diameter, so they can get to be about this big around. So you got to think about, when you look at the size tank, you got to think about how many you want to put in there. So if you're only wanting to do like 3 or 4 of them, you can do a lot smaller tank than if you're wanting to eventually fill with up to 200 or 300.
And how many gallons or how big is the exhibit?
This exhibit is 2,200 gallons.
2,000. And temperature?
Temperature is 59 degrees.
And what do they eat?
They get every day they get brine shrimp, which is also sea monkeys if you ever had those as a kid. And then we also, twice a week, we feed them Pacifica krill as an enrichment feed. Because like the brine, we load that up. We do some bioencapsulation of different things that they'll eat, so then the jellies eat that. But we also do the frozen Pacifica krill because it's got a high source of DHA, which is one of the omega acids, and that's one of their most important things in their diet. So on the days that we feed them the krill, you'll start seeing them pulsing a lot more. They've got a lot more energy after those days, which is pretty interesting. So.
Is there anything special you have to do besides the current to keep them alive and feed them?
Well, they go through an interesting life cycle, like the ones we grow in behind the scenes. We have to do a lot more with target feeding, like taking like a base and aiming directly at each one to make sure it's eating enough. To trigger the release for them to give birth, we have to do water temperature and salinity fluctuation.
And how long do they live?
In the ocean, they live on average around a year, but in aquariums, you can usually keep them around a year and a half up to almost 2 years sometimes. And that just has to do with the way that they deal with the natural cycles in the ocean. Compared to here, they've got it made.
Is there a reason why it's purple?
Yeah, that was nice. It's just so you can see the difference.
You can actually, it's...
Just so you can see them better?
Yeah, it's one of the, they really reflect well off. I mean, the nice thing about moon jellies compared to a lot of other species, you can put a lot of different colors on them. In fact, like Newport Aquarium has some lights that people can adjust themselves and change the colors, but there's no like photosynthetic reason for that color.
Okay.
It's easy to see them with that.
I think that's about it. Is there anything else we need to know? I pretty much answered myself. Success of breeding and captivity. Oh, you kind of answered that.
Yes, we actually just put 2 more on exhibit today that we've been growing. Let's see if I can find them out. There's one of them right there that's about 2 months old. And then the other one is some... They've been moving all over the place.
So the water temperature and the salinity fluctuation is the stuff you use for the breeding to make sure it goes properly?
Correct. And basically, if you're familiar with the life cycle of a jellyfish, they start, they go through sexual reproduction. Those gametes fertilize into a planula that settles.
It's purple?
Yeah, that was nice. It's just so you can see the difference.
You can actually, it's...
Just so you can see them better?
Yeah, it's one of the, they really reflect well off. I mean, the nice thing about moon jellies compared to a lot of other species, you can put a lot of different colors on them. In fact, like Newport Aquarium has some lights that people can adjust themselves and change the colors, but there's no like photosynthetic reason for that color.
Okay.
It's easy to see them with that.
I think that's about it. Is there anything else we need to know? I pretty much answered most of it. Success of breeding in captivity. Oh, you kind of answered that.
Yes, we actually just put 2 more on exhibit today that we've been growing. Let's see if I can find them out. There's one of them right there that's about 2 months old. And then the other one is somewhere. They've been moving all over the place.
So the water temperature and the salinity fluctuation is the stuff you use for the breeding to make sure it goes properly?
Correct. And basically, if you're familiar with the life cycle of a jellyfish, they start, they go through sexual reproduction.
Mm-hmm.
Those gametes fertilize into a planula that settles on something and becomes a polyp. That could be in the aquarium, it could be the walls of the aquarium, it could be a whale, it could be a boat, it could be rocks in the ocean, whatever. And these polyps settle, and then they grow to the mature state, and they go through what's called strobilation, where these polyps have grown multiple baby, like free-swimming jellies that are on a fire, so they're like stacked like pancakes. And these polyps, and when they go through this release, they just pop off one after the other. So we help induce that strobilation every month or 2. And when we change the temperature, it stresses them enough that they'll go through the release. And salinity, the slight adjustment of that also helps kind of make them pop them out pretty easily. So that way we have a mass release of those fire. And then that free swimming stage eventually grows into this Medusa stage you see on exhibit.
Oh.
So
I think that's about it.
Okay.